Time to build a real business and start making money. Yeah, I mean, how much more exciting can it get? So we are literally at a potentially life-changing moment here for many of you. If you're just starting out in e-commerce, this is a fantastic point. Now, we've had, great benefit from the Shopify free trial. You may still have some days left, but, at some point, obviously we need to convert that into a real site and start thinking about a real business, right? And this is what this next section is going to be all about. And it's also going to be about driving traffic to the store. So we've looked at markets and products and how to add all that to your site. But clearly, without any traffic and without any proper laser targeted traffic, we're not going to make any sales. So, this is all coming up. I'm going to teach you all about how to drive laser targeted traffic to your store and start making some proper money. But before we do that, we do need to set up a proper store. So let's crack on. So let's have a look at the different Shopify plans that are on offer. So you probably already had a sneak preview, I'm sure, but if you haven't, just simply click on this Select a Plan button from the homepage. Now let me just scroll down a bit so we got them all neatly showing. Now you see there are 3 plans available. We have a $29 per month, a $79 per month, and a $299 per month. Now, straight off the bat, you do not need the $299 per month, okay? That is completely unnecessary. So really the decision is between the $29 and the $79. Now, apart from the obvious price difference, the main difference really is this transaction fee down here. You see 2% for the $29 per month, and you see a 1% for the $79 per month. So the transaction fee is simply Shopify's fee for products that you sell on your site. So if you sell something for $100, in this case, they're going to take $2. And if you sell something for $100 over here, they're going to be taking $1. Yeah. So if you do the maths, you'll see that it's around about $5,000 per month that the $79 per month starts to make sense because of the lower transaction fees. Now, I'm certainly doing more than $5,000 per month, and I've absolutely no reason to believe why you wouldn't be doing that very, very soon as well. Now, that said, I do understand that people are on a budget, particularly when starting out, and the $29 per month really is a very, very good start. Just a couple of things I want to draw your attention to. This basically gets you start selling with a beautiful online store, and over here, we've got a couple of extras, okay? We've got gift cards, we've got professional reports, fraud analysis, and abandoned cart recovery. Now, for me, the most important part of that is abandoned cart recovery. Okay, I'm going to talk about that later on because, believe it or not, 2/3 of the people who get to the checkout will not pay. They will abandon the cart. So abandoned cart recovery, as you will learn later on in the course, is a super, super important part of a successful e-commerce business. Now, we can download apps for free that will do similar things to what Shopify has to offer. However, the fraud analysis tool is essentially unique to Shopify, and I'll show you this later as well, but it's Shopify's way of trying to detect any fraudulent payments perhaps on your site, which is very, very rare, but they have a very neat system built into Shopify that enables that detection. Things like gift cards and professional reports, they're nice to have, but they're really not essential at this stage. So make your choice between these two, between the 29 and the 79. I will take the 79 because I want to show you these features so that you're fully aware of absolutely everything Shopify has to offer. So I'm going to click on choose this plan. And then it's just a question of filling in your billing details. Now, I do want to draw your attention towards this billing cycle, okay? Just leave this on Bill Me once a month because you can stop and start Shopify when you want, okay? You want that flexibility. There's no reason, in my opinion, unless you feel strongly otherwise, to go for a 1, 2, or 3 year plan at this stage. So I shall fill in this form and I'll see you in the next lecture once I'm done. Okay, fantastic. So you bought your Shopify plan, and now when you look at the store, it hasn't got choose a plan written all over the place, and hopefully you're looking at a page something like this. Now, the next thing we need to do is to get a domain. All right, so I want to draw your attention to how we've been set up for the time being. So if I go over to the store at the moment, what we have is timssuperdeals.myshopify.com. And that is basically what we call a subdomain. It's hosted on My Shopify, and it's a subdomain on My Shopify. It's not our own domain. Now, don't get me wrong, you could build out a store on this and never change it. But when it comes to building your brand and in fact being taken seriously, having something on a subdomain or the My Shopify subdomain is really not the way to go. It's really not going to help you build out that professional brand and superb store that you're ultimately looking for. So what we want is a domain such as www.timssuperdeals.com.
Now, there are two ways of doing this, all right? I want to make you fully aware of both ways and the limitations, the advantages and the disadvantages of both so that you can make the correct decision for yourself. Now, option one is to buy your domain through Shopify, which is a very straightforward process. If you just go down to the online store and go to domains, you'll have the option to buy new domain. Obviously, you won't see this if you haven't signed up for the plan, but assuming you have, all you need to do is in this bit here where it says domain, is to type in the domain that I want. So timssuperdeals.com. All right, now immediately it tells me whether it's available or not. I got this tick here, it's available, and it'll cost me $14 for the year. And all I have to do now is go through and buy it, and I would have that domain. And then what would happen is that Shopify would instantly switch from this, timssuperdeals.myshopify.com, to simply timssuperdeals.com. So that's a very, very straightforward process for $14 a year. Now, the disadvantage of this is when it comes to email. Now, Shopify does not have a full-blown email hosting service. What they do is that they forward emails. So what do I mean by that? Well, I signed up with tim@ecommercemindset.com, as I'm sure you remember. And with Shopify, I can set up an email, for example, info@timssuperdeals.com. But then when somebody emails me on that, it will forward it to tim@ecommercemindset.com. So I'll ultimately get all of my email on tim@ecommercemindset.com. I hope that makes sense. So what that means is that when I'm replying to customers, they are also seeing that I'm replying to them with tim@ecommercemindset.com. Nothing to do with Tim's Super Deals. So I hope you understand that important point. Now, you can certainly work like that. That's not really a big deal. But again, when it comes to building a brand, you are to a certain extent confusing your customer with now a different email address. And for me, I just find that unprofessional. But I want to stress that's my opinion after years in e-commerce, but you can certainly do it that way. So that was option one. So what's option two all about? Well, you might have noticed this link up here, connect existing domain. And what we can do is we can actually buy a domain outside of Shopify, okay? Not at all on the Shopify platform, but with another provider. And then we can connect it to our store. And the advantage of that is I then get the professional email setup that I want. So I'm going to show you that in the next lecture so that you're fully aware of both options. And as I said before, that will enable you to make the decision that you're most comfortable with.
Okay, so first off, if you've registered your domain name with Shopify, then the next 4 lectures are not going to apply to you. So you can simply skip the next 4 lectures and go to the lecture where I talk about adding emails to the Contact Us page. But if you're still with me, that means that you're interested in setting up email in what I consider to be the correct way, which is with an external host. Now, this is pretty straightforward to do, and of course, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do step by step so you have absolutely nothing to worry about in the coming lectures. Now, in terms of cost, there is a small additional cost compared to doing it with Shopify, perhaps $1 or $2 per month, but I really consider that investment worthwhile to get it all set up in a more professional manner. So which external hosting company should you use from the probably tens of thousands of companies out there offering their services? Well, in my 20 plus years experience, I've probably seen the good, the bad and the ugly of several hundred, and there is one in particular that I use a lot, and I will recommend them to you in the next lecture. Now, before I do that, I do want to say that you can use any external host you want. If you've got your favorite, go for that. If you've got one that you're using already, then by all means use that as well. But if you want to take my recommendation, I can guarantee they're a very, very good company. Very, very fast. The support is excellent, which I think is something that a lot of people overlook, particularly when you get into problems. Super cheap hosting companies generally offer very poor support. So the support is excellent, and I can also get you a small discount on the hosting package itself. Okay, so if you clicked on the link in the previous slide, then you should be looking at a page like this. You should be on tmdhosting.com, which is my recommended company. Again, I repeat, you can use whatever company you want, but of course the following a couple of lectures might not make a huge amount of sense because I'm going to be showing you exactly what to do when you're setting it up with TMD. And in fact, in this lecture, what we're going to do is register your domain name. And then in the following lecture, I'll show you how to actually go ahead and set up the email and link that in with Shopify. So let's crack on. First of all, you might have a sales agent popping up here, George Stevens today, but you don't need him because you got me to show you exactly what you need to do. So you can just close him. And then the next thing you'll need to do is to click on web hosting up here at the top. Now, what I'd like you to do then is to scroll down the page until you get to these three different packages: Starter, Business and Enterprise. And the one that we're interested in, you'll be very pleased to know, is the cheapest one, $2.95 a month. And as I said, you'll be getting a discount on that as well. And I just draw your attention to this 60 days money back guarantee. So this really is risk-free. So all you need to do now is click on Get Started. And you'll arrive on a page like this, which is a very exciting moment because now we're going to register the domain name for your business. So I've been talking about Tim's Super Deals. So I'm going to type in here Tim's Super Deals. But because I've already registered that name, I'm simply going to put a 2 on the end just so I can show you the rest of this procedure. But for you, you won't be needing to do that. And in fact, if you're struggling at all with a name, just do what I've done. Just take your name and then put Super Deals or Bargain Deals or Hot Deals or something like that on the end. And most of the time, 99% of the time, you'll find that that's available and that'll allow you to crack on. Now, the other thing I want to say is you want to take the .com, okay? You get asked quite a lot, shall I use .com or .net or something else? Always go for the .com. There really is no reason not to do that. So once you're happy with your name, all you'll need then to do is to click on Search. The page will then refresh, and if your domain was available, you'll be looking at this page. Congratulations, your domain is available for registration with your hosting account. And then all you need to do is to scroll down a bit. You'll need to create an account, email, password, put in your name and your address, all the standard stuff. Of course, your credit card details to make the purchase. But I want to draw your attention to a couple of other things though. First of all, the hosting services, okay? So the location, you want to choose the location that's closest to you. You can see here it says that Amsterdam is nearest for me because I'm in Europe right now. But choose the one that's closest to you and then choose your period. And obviously the longer you go for, the cheaper it's going to be per month. Then as we move down to these extra services, you've got domain registration already checked on. You get that for free, which is great news. The rest are checked off except for this domain privacy. Now, I don't think it's really necessary, particularly when you're getting started out, to spend an additional basically $10 annually. So I would basically just take that off. So you've got here, turn it off. So just turn it off. It's going to drop the price down a bit as well. And then here, the coupon code, okay? I said I can get you a small discount, and the way to do that is to enter the coupon code, which is Success Today. And when I press this button, you're going to see this final price here drop by 7%. So if I click on Apply, and there we go. There's the discount, and then the final discount brings me down to $17.58 US cents in this particular example. Obviously, it depends, as I say, on how long you're going for, etc. And then all you'll then need to do is to agree to the terms and conditions. If you want to get their emails, etc., then make sure you click on this. But otherwise, you are all done. The only thing to do now is to click on Complete Order. In the next lecture, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up your email. So with your domain now registered, you should be looking at a page like this. Now there's just a couple of things I need to draw your attention to on this page. First of all, the billing, where you'll find your invoice for the domain that you've just bought. So if you're looking for that, that's where you're going to find it. Otherwise, I'd like you to go to Services. And here, click on My Services. Now in here, you're going to find details of the product that you just bought. And over here, you're going to see a button that says Manage Product. So I'd like you to click on that. And then simply scroll down to the bottom where you're going to see this cPanel. So once again, just click on that. Now a zillion icons pop up. We don't need any of these. You can scroll right down through, but just look for email accounts. All right, so find email accounts. Now I need to select my appropriate domain. You almost certainly won't need to do this. So I'm just going to click on Tim's Super Deals. Okay, that's the one we're talking about. This will either be missing this domain part or maybe just have one option, the domain you just registered. So it's up to you how many you want to create, but I'll generally create 3: sales, billing, and support. So let me just show you how to do one, and then the rest are very, very straightforward. So
support, just simply type in here. All right, so support@timssuperdeals.com, and then a password here, and I strongly recommend you use the generate system, which immediately has a strength of 100. Then you'll need to type that password again, and then that's it. You can leave this mailbox quota as is and just click on create account. Okay, so success account created. And if you scroll down a little bit further, again, I've got loads and loads of emails in here, but you can see the support@timssuperdeals.com that I have just created there. So go ahead and do that. Create, if you want, 2 more, billing and sales, if you want to follow my lead, or maybe you just want to create 1, an info or just maybe a support, entirely up to you. But certainly make sure you create 1 of them. Now, having got those emails set up, obviously the next thing we want to do is to make sure we can use them. So just go back to your hosting area, and this time I want you to click on webmail. And here, all you got to do now is enter in the address you just created. So in my case, support@timssuperdeals.com. And then the password that we created with that auto-generate password system, and then just simply log in. Now, when you're doing this the first time, it will ask you just a couple of things. First of all, we can just click on Got It here, and then it simply asks you which webmail application you want to use. Basically, they're all the same as far as I'm concerned. I generally just click on this round cube, and I say Set as Default, and then round cube. And you're presented with your email client with all the things you know and love about email, with your inbox and the ability to compose messages, etc. So what I suggest you do here is simply bookmark this page so you can come back to it with a single click. Now, just a final word. If any of that was overwhelming, if you got confused, if you got a little bit lost, whatever the reason might be, and I fully understand if that's the case, then make use of TMD Hosting's support. It is excellent. So to do that, just go back to your client area and click on Open Ticket. And then there's a bunch of categories you'll need to choose from. So you've got website down, website transfer, etc. If you had a problem with email, for example, it would probably fit under the general request. Then it's just a question of filling in the form, and they will get back to you very, very quickly. As I said before, it is really one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, that I work with TMD, because the support is excellent. So fantastic, that's email all set up. Now all we need to do is to point your domain to your Shopify store. And we're going to look at that in the next lecture. Okay, let's take the final step and connect our domain to our Shopify store. Now, again, if you bought your domain directly through Shopify, this lecture is not relevant and you can skip it. But for the rest of you, all we need to do is go down to the online store again, go to domains, and click on here on Connect Existing Domain. Now, the first thing you need to do is to enter in the domain we bought with, in this case, TMD Hosting. So mine was timssuperdeals.com, and just simply click on Next. Now here we get to connect your domain, you need to log into your provider account. Okay, we've been looking at that in the last lecture, that's our client area, and change your settings. So we'll have a look at those in a second. Follow the step-by-step instructions to get started. So let's view those instructions. So we've actually done 1, 2, 3, and 4 already, and we need to scroll down to this bit here, okay? So it says here, set up your existing domain to connect to Shopify. If you purchased your domain through a third party, that's us, we bought it through TMD, then you need to edit the following DNS settings, okay? Now, there's a few little technical steps here, but just follow my lead. It's very, very straightforward. In fact, it might look overwhelming, but just do exactly what I do, and you'll be absolutely fine. So the first thing we need to do is to sort out what's called this A record, okay? You don't have to worry at all about what that is. But I do want you to copy this, all right? So just basically highlight that, right mouse click and copy. We're going to need this in a minute. And then the next thing you want to do is come back to your client area, scroll down and find that cPanel button again. And this time go down to this domains section and find the zone editor. So here I've got lots of entries, but you'll only have one, okay? So your domain name here, all I want you to do is to click on A record. This little thing will pop up here. I want you to put in here your actual domain name. Okay, timssuperdeals.com. And then I want you to paste in that address that I just asked you to copy. And I want you to click on Add an A record. So that's that done, nice and easy. And if we go back to the instructions, the next thing was your CNAME record should point to shops.myshopify.com. So again, I want you to copy this. So just highlight, right mouse click and copy.
and then go back to the editor, and this time click on CNAME record. Now this time put in www in front, okay? So, and then Tim's superdeals.com. So last time we left the www out, we're now putting a www in this one, so that's an important detail. And then here, paste in that CNAME, shops.myshopify.com, and then just click on add a CNAME record. And that's it. That's all the technical stuff done. Now, one last step. What we do need to do now, as you'll see in these instructions, it says, if we scroll down, verify your connection in Shopify. Okay, so that's the last thing we need to do. So to verify the connection, just go back to your Shopify admin system. And here we've got verify connection. This is where we were before with the view instructions, etc. Now we're just going to click on verify connection. It's going to work its magic. And there we have it. So we get a confirmation your domain, timsuperdeals.com, was successfully connected. And we got the details down here about when it happened. Now, this is an important point here. See this? Your domain is now pointing to your online store. That's perfect. It can take up to 24 hours for the changes to propagate. Now, this is just something to do with the internet. You don't need to worry about the details. It can take up to 24 hours, but typically it's actually very, very quick. But if you have any problems, again, if you've got any problems at all and it's not showing up after 24 hours, or you're confused with my instructions, or you're confused by Shopify's instructions, then please take advantage of the TMD support as I showed you before, okay? They will be able to do all of this for you if you're the slightest bit confused, okay? So they've got your back, but basically if you've done all this and you're looking at a screen very similar to mine, you have now fully connected your domain to Shopify, and not only that, you've got email set up in a very professional manner that's going to really help you build out your brand in the future. Now, of course, as a final step, when we visit timsuperdeals.com, we want to make sure, of course, that our store shows up. So if I go onto the little eye here and click, it loads up timsuperdeals.com, but you can see that it's password protected. You might remember some time ago now I said I would come back to the subject of password protection. So all I want to do now is basically remove password protection so that people can find my store directly. So to do that, just go back to Shopify, go down to Preferences, scroll down, and here where you see Enable Password, just simply disable that. Click on Save, and now let's open up the store again. And this time we are all good, yeah? The whole store is showing on timsuperdeals.com. Fantastic job, guys. We are really, really motoring. I'm very, very excited for you, and I can't wait to show you a bunch more stuff coming up in the rest of this course. So whether you've set up your emails through Shopify directly or using TMD as I showed in the last 3 lectures, whichever way you've done it, congratulations to getting this point. You should now have 3 different emails. If you're following my advice, you don't have to, of course, but that's generally what I do. So, an inquiries out, a sales out, and a billing out, just to kind of cover off all eventualities, if you like. So, this is more of a note rather than a bona fide lecture, I would say, because all I want to say at this point is don't forget to add these to your Contact Us page. So, winding back several lectures, we just had your personal email address on there when we were looking at the free trial. Now we have some genuine email addresses. So make sure you go back to your Contact Us page or your About Us page, however you're set up, and add those on so that your customers can contact you appropriately.
Okay, so just another thing we want to tidy up now that you have a proper store is your homepage title and the meta description. So this is very, very straightforward. Just go to the online store, go to Preferences, and it's these fields here that we want to fill in, okay? So for the title, you want to put your store name. I write it like that so it's a little bit more readable, and then you can typically include something like a little hyphen and then write a very basic, succinct description of your store. So here I could write the best daily dog deals. Okay, not a brilliant example, but the point is it's to the point and it's short. As you can see, I've got a 70 character limit here and I've used 41 of them, so I could extend that a bit, but basically I'm looking for something that says exactly what my store is about. Now, for the homepage meta description, I've got a lot more here that I can use, 320 characters. Now, the important thing here is that this title and meta description is what's going to show up in the Google rankings when somebody searches for your store. So you're very familiar with the Google rankings, how they look, right? So the title is exactly the title that we put in, and the description is that text underneath, right? So think of it in those terms. So I'm going to write a meta description. So just off the top of my head, Tim's Super Deals brings you the best deals for the dog lover. If you love your dog and are looking to treat yourself, come inside and check out our exciting products. Now, it's good to have some sort of call to action. You want to get them to click. Okay, this isn't a course on SEO, but one of the important things about Google listings is to get people to click. If Google sees people clicking, it will give it more credence and move it up the rankings. So use those tips and just spend a little bit of time creating your homepage title and your homepage meta description. And then, of course, once you're done, don't forget to click on Save.
So in the next lecture, we're going to look at adding shipping costs to our products before our customers buy them. But before we do that, we need to understand the 3 shipping models that are possible. And I'm going to take through each one. They're very, very simple. And I'm going to show you the one that I use, and I'll explain why I do it. So let's have a look at the first one. The first one is no shipping costs at all. All right, so basically product's $20, €20, whatever it is, and that's it. Yeah, there are no shipping costs added on at the point of sale at all. So number 2 is realistic shipping costs, which I put at $2.95, and I've highlighted that, so you might guess that that's actually my preferred option already. Now, as I talked about previously when we were setting up the Shopify plans and looking at those, people will abandon carts. In fact, up to 2/3 of people will abandon carts at the checkout. And one of the reasons for that, one of the big reasons, there are many reasons, are shipping costs. If they basically load up their cart with all the goodies that they want, and then they get to the checkout and they discover that the shipping costs are completely unrealistic, they feel perhaps a little bit cheated or whatever, but they will abandon the carts. We've all done it. You've all been there, I'm sure, and you thought, crikey, that's ridiculous, paying that sort of money for shipping. So I like to add a shipping cost because it adds more to my bottom line, right? So I go for $2.95. Now there's a slight caveat to that, a slight not anomaly, but a variation for that, if you like, which I'll show you in the next slide when we actually add it into Shopify itself. Now the third one, which you probably will have seen at some point, is the famous free just add shipping model. Yeah. Now I use this in my FB Ninja Trick lecture just as a way of digging out products, but it is not something I use by any stretch. I strongly recommend you don't do it. Okay, you will find people on the internet who are making supposedly a fortune doing it, but it is the exception to the rule. It's kind of ridiculous. We're selling products here at €20, dollars, for example, and supposedly they're all free according to our advertising, and then when they get to the checkout, if we're going to actually make a profit, we're going to have to charge $20 for shipping. Well, that's absurd. No one's going to pay $20 to ship a piece of jewelry. I might pay $20 to ship a TV. But basically it's ridiculous. I don't think it does anything to build trust with the customer whatsoever, and I strongly advise you to give it a wide berth. Okay, so I'm all about number 2, realistic shipping costs. Let's see how we implement those in the next lecture.
So we now know we want to implement a basic shipping rate of $2.95. So how do we actually go about doing that? Well, in this lecture, I'm going to show you. And shipping rates is something that people often get confused about. So I have developed and I've been using a very simple yet powerful system for a long, long time now that not only is it simple to understand for me, but it's also simple to understand for my customers. Of course, you're not obliged to do exactly this, but I strongly recommend you give it some serious consideration. So what we want to do is come down to our settings and go straight to shipping. So first of all, this shipping origin is not significant. We are drop shipping. If we were selling our own products from our own warehouse, then yes, we would need to consider this, but that's not what we're doing. So we can basically ignore this and we can scroll down to this part here, shipping rates at the checkout. Now I've set up two very basic shipping zones. Okay, I've got domestic, United States, and I've got rest of the world. Now, most of my business, and probably most of yours, certainly in the beginning, will come from the US. So I'm keeping this very, very simple with United States and rest of world. You can very easily add in another shipping zone here, for example. So if you're in the UK, you could add in the United Kingdom, or if you're in Australia, you could add in Australia, and you could end up with several shipping zones listed. But just for the sake of this course, I want to keep it simple, and I want to focus on United States, because you'll see once I've shown you how this works, you can very, very easily apply it to any shipping zone. So the next thing I want to do is click on Edit next to the United States. Now you get to change the name of the zone if you want to. I'm going to leave it as domestic for the moment. You've got the countries that are listed within it, so I could add other ones if I wanted to, but this is the United States, so I'm leaving it purely as the US, but I might want to call it North America and add in Canada. Very, very straightforward. But the first thing I want to say is that these weight-based rates are not important, okay? Again, we are drop shipping, so the weight is going to be an issue more for the supplier over there on AliExpress in China or wherever they're actually shipping from. We are not shipping out of our own warehouse. You'll also remember in the golden rules I talked about shipping lightweight products, because that gives you another advantage. If, for example, you did have very, very heavy products, your supplier over there on AliExpress might want to charge your potential customer an awful lot to ship them. But when you keep those products lightweight, this completely goes away. You don't have this issue at all. So what we are talking about are price-based rates. So all I need to do is click on Add Rate, you give it a name, so let me just call it Standard 1, and then I'm going to create a range between 0 and 20. Okay, you remember from the rules that basically you are selling products at €20 or $20 and less. Now, this is where I give it a rate. So this is where my $2.95 comes into play, and I just click Done. All right, so that's my standard one. So anybody who buys something off my site now between 0 and €20 is going to be paying $2.95 in shipping. But what if they buy more than €20 of products, which is entirely possible? How do we implement shipping for that? So we're going to add in another rate. This one we'll call simply Standard 2. Now my minimum order is 20, and I will have no limit for my maximum. Now for the rate, I'm going to charge a little bit more than that $2.95. In fact, I'm going to put it at $3.95, and I'm going to click on Done. So just to reiterate, somebody buys something between 0 and 20, they're going to pay $2.95, and 20 and over, they're going to pay $3.95. So if you're thinking ahead, you might be thinking, well, there's a problem with that, because if someone orders €200 off my site, they'll still only be paying $3.95. But you will remember that we've got a huge margin with the way that I'm teaching you to make money with this business model. We're buying at 4 and less, and we're selling for 20. So we've got a very big margin to play with, and that is extremely important. So just imagine in this example, somebody did buy $200 worth of product. And I apologize, I know I'm flipping between euros and dollars, but it doesn't really matter. The denomination's irrelevant. It's the actual number that I want you to focus on. So let's imagine they did buy $200 worth of products, and my supplier over there on AliExpress wanted to charge me, let's say, $40 for the shipping. Well, that's fine. If you do the maths, I've still got a huge margin to play with. And what it means also is I can very easily explain to my customers how my shipping works. You know, I get, and you will get, inquiries about, if I buy 10 of these products, how much is the shipping going to be? Well, in my case, it's very straightforward. It's $3.95. If it's less than 20, it's $2.95. If it's more than that, it's $3.95. And trust me, customers like simplicity. Again, doing website reviews and helping people out, I often see people overcomplicating this. They may have 20 things listed in this price-based rate. Very, very difficult to explain that to the customer, and also for you to remember exactly how it all works. So after years of experience of doing this, this is basically the model that I've come to. It's a very, very simplified model, and it really does work and basically just makes your life that much easier. So we've arrived at the all-important lecture of how are people actually going to pay you. Clearly you need a payment provider so people can actually buy something from your site. Now, to get to your payment providers, it's very straightforward. Just go down to Settings and click on Payment Providers. Now this is where things get a little bit more complicated, because the payment providers that are available to you totally depend on where you live. So that's really, really important to grasp. Now, the three main payment providers are Shopify Payments, PayPal, and Stripe. Okay, and in this example, because I'm based in France, as you know, Shopify Payments does not work in France. So my options here are PayPal, and I also have Stripe. But if you're watching this in the US, for example, you will almost certainly see Shopify Payments here as an option. If you're watching this, say, in Brazil, just purely for example, I can't guarantee this, you may not see Shopify Payments or PayPal, or maybe not even Stripe, but some other payment provider is available to you. So what you need to do at this point is seek out the best payment provider in your country. Now, Shopify, to a certain extent, have made this easier because they've come up with this page, which is shopify.com/payment gateways. Okay. And if you head over here, you're going to see a list of all the countries and then all of the payment gateways that are available in those countries. So just for example, if we click on, Singapore here, for example, and scroll down. So here I've got the major payment gateways supported in Singapore. Shopify Payments is available. So if you're watching this in Singapore, then you should have Shopify Payments. PayPal is also available. And then there's various other ones like WorldPay, etc. But each person, and I keep repeating this because it's so important, is going to be different. Let's have a look in France. So if I click on France and scroll down, you're going to see a bunch of payment gateways that are very different to those that are in Singapore. You'll also note that Shopify Payments is not on the list, but PayPal Express Checkout is, which if you go back here, is what it is offering me as a solution. So this is where you need to roll up your sleeves and basically get out there and find the best payment provider for your situation. Now, all I can do is just demonstrate what I've got here in France. That's going to help you somewhat. So again, my default is PayPal. Now, I could have others accept credit cards, okay? So select the provider. I can have Stripe in France, and I've got all these other ones available to me as well. And if I scroll down a bit here, I've also got apparently Amazon Pay and various alternative payments. Now these I don't recommend you dive into, certainly not in the beginning, because it's going to be more of a distraction. And as for manual payments, well, that's not relevant. We are not doing any manual payments with this business model. So if I scroll back up to the top here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up PayPal on my store. And what I'll typically do in a real situation is actually have two payment providers. Now the reason for that is because your customers may want to pay with their preferred payment provider. So, for example, some people will want to pay with PayPal and others will want to pay with a credit card through a system like Stripe. It's also useful to have two in case there's an issue with one of them. Now, that's a luxury setup. I fully appreciate that not everybody can have two, but certainly aim for one. So at this point, it's over to you. See what's available. It might be a very, very straightforward process, or you may have to do a little bit more digging to get that thing set up. But whatever you do, make sure you get a payment provider fully installed. So by this stage, you should be in pretty good shape because you've now got a great looking store with some great products, and you've got a payment provider or possibly even a couple of payment providers. Of course, we're still missing a major part, which is driving traffic to the store so that people do buy your products, but all that is coming up. Now, in this lecture, what I want to do is look at making a test order. And the main reason for doing this is to make sure that the store is functioning correctly. Now, again, I get questions from people now and again saying I have problems with my store, I'm not getting any sales, whatever it might be. And often the first thing I'll say is, have you done a test order? Have you checked that absolutely everything works from A to Z? And very, very often they'll do an order of some kind and discover that actually, no, they do have issues. So for that reason, although we're going to do one test order right now, I encourage you to periodically, maybe once a week or once a month, something like that, make a test order on your site so that you're fully convinced that everything is working perfectly. Now, of course, later on, once you've got many, many sales coming in, you probably don't need to worry about that. But just in the beginning, when there's so much going on and so much to consider, this is really, really worth doing. Now, most payment providers will enable you to do some sort of test purchase without actually having to pay. But what I like to do is to buy something off my site and then simply refund myself. It gives me a much better feeling for making sure that everything is absolutely working perfectly. So let's go ahead and make the test order. So I'm going to buy this little thing here, this heart-shaped dog pendant that we put on a little while ago, and I'll simply add it to the cart and go to the checkout. Now what I did here is I set up a fake address just for the test in Anchorage in the United States. And you can see I've got a subtotal of 19, and I've got my shipping, as I would expect, at $2.95, as we set it up not so long ago. Now over here we have the payment method, PayPal. If I had other payment methods available, they would also be showing here. And then I'm just going to leave this as same as the shipping address for the moment. So I'll now complete the order, and it prompts me to pay with PayPal. So I'm going to go ahead and buy this, and then I'll see you on the orders page, which is not something we've looked at yet, but I'll see you there once I'm done. So here I am. I've come straight to the orders page, and here we see my order made 23 minutes ago. Sorry, I had to go off and do a couple of things, so I'm back, but basically the order happened 23 minutes ago. It's paid and it's currently unfulfilled. Now don't worry about that, because we're going to be talking all about how to fulfill orders later on in the course. But if you click on your order, then you should see all the details as you expect. So my heart-shaped dog pendant, there it all is, paid by the customer, $21.95. So for me, that proves that my store works from A to Z. So a very successful test order. So the last thing I want to do is just refund myself, because there's no point me actually buying this. It was all just for a test. So there we go, all the details, and just simply click on refund. And there we have it. So now we get an all items were shipped or refunded just for confirmation. So all done. You have made a full-blown test order. And as I say in the beginning, just go through that process periodically, maybe once a week, once a fortnight, or possibly once a month. But certainly don't forget about it. So with that test order made, this is also a very good time to talk about email notifications, because if you have gone through and ordered something from your site, you will have received an email notification from Shopify. If you haven't, check your spam, because it will be there. So how do these notifications work? Where do they actually come from? Well, it's all very straightforward. We just need to go down to settings and go to notifications. Now what you have here is a complete email set that goes out automatically. You don't have anything to do, all right? This is a fantastic value add from Shopify. Now, just for example, this very first one, the order confirmation, which would have been the email that you would have got, is sent automatically to the customer after they place the order. Now, just for interest, if I click on this, you get a bunch of stuff here. Now, all this is the possibility to customize the email if you wanted to. But quite frankly, it's really not necessary. So you know where it is, but I really don't recommend touching this for the time being. So if I go back to notifications, as I say, we've got everything for the order process here, but we've also got everything for the shipping process. We haven't got to this point in the course yet, but when we do ship that product to the customer, they will get, for example, the shipping confirmation sent automatically to the customer when their order is fulfilled. All right. So, if you've ever bought anything off the internet, you will have received an email very, very similar to that. So there we go. That's where the notifications are. As I say, you don't have to worry about anything, but now you know exactly where to find it. Now, the last thing I want to talk about in this section before we get on to the exciting subject of actually driving traffic to your store is fraud analysis. Now, you remember that I took the full Shopify package so that I could basically show you this. Now, before we get into it, fraud analysis is not a big deal. I don't want to get worried that it's going to be an awful lot of fraud on your store. Will it happen? Probably. I've been doing this for a long, long time, and I would estimate that less than 1% of the orders that I receive are basically suspect, and I may end up ultimately losing money. But that's business. If you're running a physical store, you have to worry about things like shoplifting or indeed stolen credit cards. So this is just the way it goes in business, but less than 1% is really not a big deal. But what's nice with Shopify is that you do get this fraud analysis tool. So I'm here on the order that I made as part of my test order. And if I scroll down, I get this section here, fraud analysis. Now, if you've got the normal Shopify package, you won't see this. So what it's done is it's used some sort of algorithm to try to understand whether this order is fraudulent or not. So it's got a low, medium, high. It's given me a low. I would hope so, because it was me. And then it says the characteristics of this order are similar to non-fraudulent orders observed in the past. There were 2 payment attempts. Okay, fair enough. I can then view the full analysis. Now here I get all kinds of stuff that might help me determine whether this was a fraudulent payment. An interesting one here is that the shipping address is 8,169 kilometers from the location of the IP. So do you remember I basically, with that customer information, I actually put in somebody in Anchorage just as a test, Anchorage, Alaska, a long, long way from me, but it picked that up. Okay, again here, the billing address is listed as United States, but the order was placed from France. Now, those aren't particularly alarming things. That happens all the time with people buying stuff that might be in one place and shipping to somewhere else. But nevertheless, it has flagged that as a little red dot. But overall, it has decided that I am low risk and therefore nothing to worry about. Now, if I come out of here, as orders come in, you may see some medium and you may very, very occasionally see some high. And if that happens, I encourage you to click on the full analysis and decide whether you want to accept that payment or not before you ship the order. Now, I know I'm saying the same thing over and over again, but this is a very rare event, so please don't get obsessed with it by any stretch. Now, the other thing to bear in mind is if you don't have the full Shopify package and therefore this fraud analysis is not available, you can rest assured that your payment provider will also be looking at some sort of fraud analysis. So if you're with Stripe, you're with PayPal, or indeed any of the others, they will also have well built-in fraud analysis systems. If you think about it, it's in their interest because they take a fee for a successful order. And if later on it turns out that it wasn't a successful order and has to be refunded, then potentially they lose their fee. So it's very much in their interest to make sure that the orders that are going through their systems are all good. So there we go. That's the fraud analysis tool provided by Shopify, and it's just something to keep an eye on from time to time.